it is also known, and I think we will all tend to agree with all the nuances of different phrasing. The ISIS came not as a phenomenon. So I think the time is coming that people of all ethnicities should sit and talk and get that country, and if need to stay as a country, to stay in a minimum mutual agreed denomination, but that the people in Kurdistan can take their own loans, and they can revive their economy, so that the folks there don't live without 5-6 months without the salary, so that these brave men and women fighting in the front lines without the appropriate blankets, even the helmets, and with the small guns and a little bit of those German guided cruise missiles, can't defend humanity over such a brutality. Much to discuss, and I'm really thrilled that this is our third event on Kurdistan in the last year, because our hearts, and I speak now, and even on behalf of sending the message of a people that we've met yesterday within our government, and that these great folks will have a chance to meet in the coming days more. We're staying strongly with the people of Kurdistan, and we wish them best of luck, and they're very good allies to the United States, a true friend. And I think that this event will just help to reinforce that profound, genuine, and strong friendship to be continued. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so very much for inviting us for this event. Sasha was so kind to call me the youngest member, but I don't remember when I was the youngest member, so if 40 years old is counted still for being a young member, it's okay. The notes that I would like to talk about today, really, I haven't prepared a long speech, so I prepared some just notes. I will like to answer questions and to have a debate with you. So the issues that we'd like to talk about is where Iraqi Kurdistan is right now and where it is heading. So what does that mean for the international community, for the United States? Ladies and gentlemen, willy-nilly Kurdistan region is now, it's a rising actor in the new Middle East that we have. Unfortunately, the whole Middle East right now is going through a chaotic transformation. By that we mean that the old system in the Middle East is fragmenting and the new one is in labor. So just to sum it up, to say that the old Middle East is gone and the new Middle East is coming. Iraqi Kurdistan region is an active actor in this new Middle East. But unfortunately, this chaotic transformation that we have has its own implication for the global and regional threats, terrorism, sectarian conflicts, the increasing numbers of the failed states in this new Middle East, the increasing numbers of the weak states in the Middle East. So how Iraqi Kurdistan region wants to play, whether it's going to be a constructive, successful, functioning new actor in the area, or it's going to be affected by the increasing numbers of the failed states, and it's not going to function as we all hope that it's functioning. So starting from this, Iraqi Kurdistan region right now has many challenges. Part of these challenges are not created by the KRG. Part of these challenges are from outside of the KRG that is affecting the situation in the whole KRG that we have. Ladies and gentlemen, the war on terror, the ISIS threat. Everybody is interested to see how the war on ISIS is going, but I would like to say that ISIS, ladies and gentlemen, is the symptom of a deeper issue in the Middle East. ISIS for itself is not the illness. ISIS is the symptom of a deeper illness in the area. Fighting ISIS militarily is a way to deal with it, to tackle it for the short term. But for the medium term and the longer term, how we are going to deal with the whole issues that we have in the Middle East that's affecting the future of counterterrorism in the area, the stability in the area, and the role that the Iraqi Kurdistan region can play. When we say ISIS is the symptom, ISIS is the result of the failed state in both Iraq and Syria. ISIS is the result of the sectarian policy that was followed by the former Iraqi government under the leadership of Maliki, by the developments in Syria, and ISIS was a terrorist organization before occupying Mosul. But with the occupation of Mosul, ISIS turned within 24 hours from a terrorist organization to a terrorist state, because they managed to confiscate and to have access to 1,700 Humvees from 5 Iraqi divisions. We warned Iraqi divisions from December 2013 for the rise of ISIS. They didn't listen to us. In January, President Barzani called Maliki himself that we have information, ISIS is coming. This is a terrorist organization, we have to deal with it from now. He refused to coordinate. He refused to have a joint military operation by the Peshmerga forces, by the Iraqi army in January, in February, and also in June. Prior to the ISIS attack in Mosul, again, we had information and we warned the Iraqi government, but they didn't listen to us. When they responded, it was too late. When ISIS attacked Kurdistan region, ladies and gentlemen, they had 2 aims to attack Kurdistan. First, in July 2014, President Barzani went to the parliament and asked the Kurdistan parliament to establish a high election commission and referendum in Kurdistan. ISIS attacked Kurdistan to stop this process, and ISIS attacked Kurdistan to regain control of the former called disputed territories and to have rule in that area. Because, ladies and gentlemen, ISIS is a different organization. ISIS is not Al-Qaeda. ISIS is a mixture of Salafi Jihadi Takfiri organization plus some of the ultra-nationalist chauvinism in the area that we have. ISIS is a mixture of the die-hard former Ba'athist commanders and also of these Salafi Takfiri Jihadis that they believe in the global caliphate that they have, and that's part of the differences that they have with Al-Qaeda. When they attacked Kurdistan, we developed 3-phase strategy in Kurdistan region. First, to stop them. Second phase was to roll them back. The third phase is to destroy and to defeat ISIS. We can proudly say, with the sacrifices of 1,603 Peshmergas up to this moment, that we managed to stop ISIS, to roll them back, to liberate 27,000 square kilometers from ISIS, but to destroy and to defeat ISIS, the knockout issue for ISIS is to liberate Mosul. So as long as ISIS stays in Mosul, this threat to Kurdistan and to the region will continue. We are very, very grateful for the support that we received from the United States, from the airstrikes, from the other coalition partners. But ladies and gentlemen, what has been done to defeat ISIS is not enough. When we say it's not enough, defeating ISIS needs boots on the ground. We have never asked for the American boots on the ground. The Peshmerga forces are the boots on the ground. The local Sunnis must be the boots on the ground. But these boots on the ground, they need to have access to the weapon system that is needed to defeat and to destroy ISIS. The Peshmerga forces in Kurdistan, they managed to face ISIS with their determination, with their love for Kurdistan, with the protection of Kurdistan. Just give me an example. If there is an army in the world that has not been paid for 4 months and they are in the continuous battlefield, if that's not the determination and the readiness, what else we can call it? So, for this war on ISIS, we can report to you that ISIS is weakened right now, but the threat is still on the Kurdistan region. Since December 17, 2015, ISIS failed to have any massive attacks on the front lines, but there are daily skirmishes. And we are all waiting for this Mosul operation to liberate Mosul from this terrorist organization because, as I said earlier, Mosul is the capital of the Caliphate and it will be a knockout for ISIS to liberate Mosul. But in order to liberate Mosul, there must be a concerted effort between four factors: the Peshmerga forces, the coalition, the Iraqi army, and the Sunni community. Sorry to report to you that, unfortunately, up to this moment, the Iraqi government is not ready for the Mosul operation, because they have not finished even the Ramadi operation. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, the process of liberating Mosul would take time. So we do hope that within 2016, or at least at the beginning of 2017, the Mosul operation will be started and will be finished to get rid of this terrorist organization. But the question that we have is the post-ISIS Iraq. What will be the color of Iraq in the post-ISIS area? So will there be the continuation of the pre-ISIS kind of the governance in Iraq, which unfortunately failed? Federalism in Iraq failed. Dictatorship in Iraq failed. And we have to have a new formula for Iraq. What kind of that new formula will be? That's part of the effort and the strategy that the Iraqi Kurdistan region is working on it. But that must be through dialogue and peace with the other components in the Iraqi society. Because of ISIS, ladies and gentlemen, Kurdistan region has faced, since beginning of 2014, 3 big shocks. And that 3 big shocks are really affecting the Kurdistan region as a model for multiculturalism, as a model for tolerance, as a model for the coexistence in this entire new Middle East that we have. The wrong policies of the previous Prime Minister Maliki by cutting the budget of Kurdistan in February 2014. Because of ISIS, ladies and gentlemen, now, as my colleague said, Dr. Sasha, we host 1.8 million IDPs and refugees, which is the largest per capita of the IDPs and the refugees in the world. The international standard for the IDPs and refugees is to have 1 refugee for every 136 citizens. In Kurdistan right now, we have every 4 citizens of Kurdistan, they have 1 IDP and 1 refugee for it. In the Duhok province, we have 1 IDP for 1 citizen. So the flooding of the IDPs and the refugees in Kurdistan, the cut of the budget from Baghdad, the war on ISIS, and plus the dramatic drop in the oil price. That has affected our economy, and that has affected this rising Kurdistan region that up to 2013, based on the reports from Washington Post, it has been the only region in the entire Middle East that has a double-digit economic growth. That Kurdistan region, according to the Economist Intelligence Unit magazine, I encourage you to read that, benchmarking the success of Kurdistan. If Iraqi Kurdistan was an independent state by the end of 2013, for the political development, for the business-friendly environment, for the political stability, for the openness, for democracy, for the coexistence, it has been ranked at the level of countries like Malaysia and Indonesia. So that's why that has affected. By the end of 2013, the unemployment in Kurdistan was 6%. But now, because of the ISIS, because of the drop in the oil price, because of the IDPs and the refugees that we have, the unemployment in Kurdistan now is between 24 to 26. The poverty level in Kurdistan region, by 2013, we managed to drop it to 3%. Those who have $1 a day. But now in Kurdistan region, the latest report that we have, it reached to 13%. In the other parts of Iraq, it's 32. In Baghdad, it's 28. So that's why it's affecting the whole situation that we have, and how we are going to deal with that. Definitely, we have some shortcomings. We have some administration problems in Kurdistan because we are new into this business. Each Kurd has a story. I myself, I am from Halabja. I have lost 3 uncles. I have lost a lot of relatives. And, I still remember the smell of the chemical bombardment. So governance and ruling ourselves is a new business for Kurdistan region. We are still in the transition period. We are still in the learning process of governance and administrating Kurdistan region. We managed to achieve many achievements, but still there is a very long road ahead of us. So for that, ladies and gentlemen, we don't want to be part of unknown future in Iraq. We want to have dialogue with Baghdad, but we don't want to be part of another decade of sectarian conflict in Baghdad, of bad governance in Baghdad, of instability in Baghdad and the other areas. So that's why the leadership has decided to have referendum. This referendum, ladies and gentlemen, is not for the declaration of independence immediately. It's a referendum as a natural right for the Kurdistani people to decide what future path they are going to take. And we want that to be under the auspices of international observers, international organizations, to just exercise our natural democratic right to ask the citizens of Iraqi Kurdistan region how they want to build their future, whether it's through confederation with Baghdad, whether to stay as a federal region, or whether they want to have an independent state. But even with that, it must be through peace and dialogue with Baghdad, not through military confrontation, not through animosity, not through anything else. So for that, the leadership has decided. Last week, President Barzani had a very, very productive meeting with all Kurdish political parties. And part of the program for that meeting was to discussing this referendum. And thanks to this nationalistic, let's say, responsibility and the accountability, all supported this idea, and we are working in Kurdistan. So the referendum is happening. It's not to say that, okay, it's part of the propaganda or not, but we do hope that in 2016, at least at the second half of this year, we can do the referendum for all Iraqi Kurdistan citizens, including Kurds in diaspora. They have to vote to see what, so many of you are here, you are entitled also to vote how you want the future of Iraqi Kurdistan region. Kurdistan region right now, ladies and gentlemen, is playing a very constructive role by supporting the peace process in Turkey, by helping both the Turkish government and the Kurds in Turkey, because it's in the best interest of the stability and democracy both in Turkey and for the relationship between Iraqi Kurdistan region and Turkey. We are also supporting and helping a lot for the Syrian Kurds. We have about, out of 255,000 Syrian refugees in all of Iraq, 246,000 of them are in Kurdistan region. That's plus all the other IDPs and the refugees that we have. So we are supporting that, and they are in our area. The other topic that I wanted to discuss, ladies and gentlemen, is how we are going to do this referendum issue and how we are going to deal with Baghdad. We had a delegation visited Baghdad. They met with Prime Minister Abadi, but it seems that Baghdad itself also is facing with some chronic economic issue. Prime Minister Abadi told our delegation that they had very, very difficulties to be capable of providing salaries for the Iraqi civil servants even for January. So they are facing with a huge problem on how to provide these salaries for February for the all Iraqi civil servants. So we managed with the Iraqi government to establish a joint committee to meet at least every month, to have better coordination for the Mosul Operation Command, to have a better coordination on how to jointly face this economic situation that is facing all of Kurdistan and the Iraqi government. So we have started to have a better dialogue with Baghdad because we have many things in common. The war on ISIS, the Mosul operation, the IDPs, the economic situation, these are joint and common issues that we have to tackle them. In this new Middle East, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Kurds have been the victims of the system for the last century. This year, 2016, is the centennial of the Sykes-Picot Agreement. So that Sykes-Picot Agreement is over because the borders right now are only existing on the map. Look at the border between Iraq and Syria. Look at the border between Iran and Iraq. Look at the border between Saudi Arabia and Yemen. Look at the border between Lebanon and Syria. These borders are gone, and even previously they were not reflecting the realities on the ground and the wishes of the people. So we do hope through democracy, through coexistence, through multiculturalism, through dialogue, through peaceful coexistence, we can redraw part of that border that reflects the reality on the ground, that will bring more stability. We want to add to the functioning entities in the Middle East. An entity like, just for example, yesterday we were discussing at the Congress, right now Iraqi Kurdistan region is the only safe haven for all the Christians in Iraq. Out of 350,000 Christians in all of Iraq right now, 335,000 of them are living only in Kurdistan region. So there must be a reason that they are living in Kurdistan region. So we want to keep this, as we all saying, that Kurdistan region right now is a villa in a jungle. So that villa needs to be protected. It needs to be supported. It needs to be helped. helped in building its institution, building by giving advices to it, building by having more economic relationship with Kurdistan. So I will end up my notes by saying that, ladies and gentlemen, once Ben Scowcroft once said that he was asked why Henry Kissinger in 1975 orchestrated the Algeria agreement between Iran and Iraq, and why you did that to the Kurds. So he said that Kurds were the hot potatoes. But ladies and gentlemen, no longer the Kurds are hot potatoes. We want Kurdistan, Iraqi Kurdistan, it's on the path and it's working. We have been part of the menu for the last century. Now it's the time to have a seat at the table for the coming century. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Kak. Mr. Himan Haurami, as a Kurdish American, we say Kak in front of as in Mr., and sometimes I have to catch myself as a Kurd. But Mr. Himan Haurami, the head of the foreign relations for the Kurdistan Democratic Party, and thank you also for the wonderful way of which you presented the current state of Kurdistan vis-a-vis the regional issues that are going on, as well as just the broader Middle East and the relations to the United States. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to be here with him and Mr. Salam from civil society. I want to, maybe we could put this up as a bit of a technical difficulty if it's not an issue. I wanted to introduce today's panel and also today's goal for the panel, which is for us to have a conversation with all of our panelists and with you about the current state of Kurdistan as well as the future and where we go from here. I think as we all know, as Kurdistan is facing a lot of opportunities as well as challenges and a lot of choices to be made. Politically, as Mr. Haurami mentioned, there is the choice between staying as a part of Iraq, which in many ways has actually failed Kurdistan and failed in itself, or seeking the self-determination which will be key to the future of Kurdistan and a region of democracy and perhaps better relations and stability for everybody. Economically as well, we see that with the fall in oil prices as well as many other factors, Kurdistan is facing an urgency to diversify the economy, first and foremost, and invest in the new generation of workforce that will go into it, as well as take the reliance away from the public sector and into a broader private sector engagement, both internationally and locally. I think we also see that the priority of ISIS is an absolute first priority for Kurdistan, for the entire region, and also for the United States. And this is a crisis that has not only cost human lives, but has also loss of infrastructure, a huge humanitarian crisis, as you mentioned, people being displaced, more than 1.8 million just in the borders of Kurdistan alone. Clearly an issue for the United States, for the European Union, and for many other neighbors in the region. And so how do we move forward from there, given that political situation, given the economy, and given the confluence and the synergies between what is in the best interest of neighbors, of the region, of the United States, as well as Kurdistan. So I think while these challenges are immense, there's also a lot of opportunities. The economic reforms that I hope we get a chance to talk about, civil society, the cooperations with the United States and the rest of the international communities have given a lot of hope, have given a lot of place for Kurdistan to work on. Whether we go towards independence or not, these institutions of good governance, investing in young people, making sure that the economy is very strong, that there is good institutions of democracy and good governance. These are all part of aspects of society that need to be strengthened. So I have the honor to be here on the panel, and I myself, as I was mentioned earlier, as a Kurdish American, and as Mr. Haurami said, I remember growing up in the entire Iran-Iraq war and dealing with not only the fear, but the destruction that brought. And as we look at what that was and how we imagined a future, Very much as a child, I could not imagine a future without Saddam Hussein at the time, or some way that we could all sit together here. And so as we look forward, I would really like for us to have a conversation of, let's detach ourselves from what it is right now and look at all the potential of Kurdistan and the region and see where a future could actually take us. It's also quite an honor for me on behalf of the Center for Transatlantic Relationship to launch a new program and a project on Kurdistan at the Mediterranean Basin Initiative that I'll be working with colleagues, Dr. Sasha Yael and many others here at the center. And this program, at the core of it, builds on the tradition of SAIS, as well as the strength of our partners, to invest in institutions of peace building and of leadership cultivation and building the resilience in the economy as well as the state. Something for Kurdistan as well as something that SAIS and CTR and MBI are proud to do. And also building foundations for entrepreneurship and the foundations for leadership that would go across all aspects of society, be it good governance, be it civil society, as well as the private sector. You know, we believe that, and as you do, that investing in young people is the way for the future of the Middle East, and this is something that 2/3 of the population of Kurdistan are under 30 currently. And how do we make sure that there are opportunities to engage them better in the state and good governance and civil society as well as the economy? And entrepreneurship, in a sense, would also give a lot of the vision and hope to the new generation, and would work to create the connections toward rebuilding a place, a country or a nation or a region or whatever we may call it, at least the entire Middle East, in a sense, rebuilding it from a future that would be without ISIS. And that's a part of something that I think we're very proud to be doing here and to work with you in the future. And I think the leadership components will also come up in a lot of our conversation. I also have the pleasure to formally announce and introduce to you an organization that I co-founded among many others here in the US, American Friends of Kurdistan. And as we speak about the diaspora, and I'd like for the conversation to see, there was a time that the diaspora would return back home to rebuild it. And now we're facing this era of uncertainty. So how do we move past people actually immigrating and build the institutions so people could return and do that? And the American Friends of Kurdistan aims to do precisely what we're here to do today, which is create this conversation and dialogue and shed light on what Kurdistan has to offer across all walks of life, not just the government, political system, civil society, the private sector, and collaborations with the United States. And as today, you know, now more than ever, the Kurds are the only trusted and reliable allies of the United States as you look at the region. Our interests of working together to defeat ISIS, of rebuilding this region, are very much mutual, and this is how we have conversations about how we can all support each other. So without further ado, because I do want this to be a conversation and hear your questions and feedback, as well as making sure that we move things and take some points that may or may not have been covered, I would like to take 3 questions for our distinguished keynote speaker, and we will take them all together, make sure we keep them brief. If you'd like your question answered directly, let's keep it under 30 seconds and try not to make a statement. And then if you don't like it answered, that's okay, you can go over 30 seconds. But who would like to go? And after that, I should say there will be plenty of opportunity for us to take other questions, and we'll keep a conversation going, and really would like to hear from the head of one of the largest organizations, which is Rwanda Foundation, which we'll get to. So 3 questions and plenty of time afterwards, please. Yes, gentleman here, and then gentleman in the back. If you would speak up, please, a little bit, would be great.
Thank you very much for your talk. I wonder if you could speak about the territorial boundaries of Kurdistan. There are disputed territories, and where this referendum will take place, and what specific states it will.
Great, thank you. Gentlemen.
So far, I haven't heard Turkey mentioned. Could you say a few words about the relationship with Turkey and how you expect the United States to play into this?
Okay, Thank you very much. Lady, please.
I had the pleasure of working for USAID in Erbil. So, you do have a microphone. So I have a strong feeling for the Kurdistan region, which is very diverse, which also pleased me. But some of the people that I met who were really contributing to the development of Kurdistan were in fact Arabs from other parts of Iraq who had moved and established themselves and their families there. But I've been told that it's increasingly difficult for non-Kurds to live in and be accepted in the Kurdistan region. So I wonder if you would address that issue.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. So we have three questions, one on the territories, disputed territories, and how it works in with Iraq, relationship with Turkey, and especially through the referendum, and thank you. We have the last question. I also was working for USAID at some point in the Middle East Bureau, so it's always great to see the friends, especially in the development community. So the last question being, if there are any tensions with the multicultural fabric right now of Kurdistan, and if anything has made it more difficult for non-Kurds to be a part of the development. Thanks.
Thank you very much for. You have it's okay. Okay. For the disputed territories, that was one of the biggest mistakes that we accepted in the Iraqi constitution for this term disputed, because we have no doubt about the geographical, historical Kurdistani side of that area. But anyhow, for 10 years, we have waited for the implementation of Article 140 of the Iraqi constitution that is based on three phases: normalization, census, and referendum in those areas to decide on the future of that area. But as you know, after ISIS attacked and the Iraqi army just vanished and they deserted, we have been providing stability for that areas, and Peshmerga forces, they have been in Kirkuk, in Khanaqin, in Sinjar, in all of the areas that they are called disputed territory. So we are not going to impose the current military status quo on these areas. There will be two referendums, one for the all Iraqi Kurdistan citizen, how they want to decide on the future of the Kurdistan region, and also a special referendum for the citizens in these areas to decide whether they want to join that future Kurdistan or they want to stay as a federal region within Iraq or whatever future they want. So if the people of that area decided to be part of that Kurdistan region or Kurdistan, an independent Kurdistan, that's the people that decide. So that we should provide them with that opportunity. Again, we are not going to impose our military status quo in that area, but we are not going to accept any new military status quo by the popular mobilization units in those territories to prevent us from having referendum for these areas that geographically and historically we are regarding them as part of Kurdistan. So this will be the strategy. For the relation with Turkey, President Barzani has been recently in Turkey. Turkey and Iraqi Kurdistan region has they have many things in common. It's a win-win situation for Turkey and Iraqi Kurdistan region. This is my personal point of view. Sometimes when it comes, Turkey following zero problem with neighbors policy for the last 10 years, part of the Ahmed Dawoodoglu's book. But if you look around Turkey's neighbors, they have zero neighbors without problem. So it's Iraqi Kurdistan region that has a lot of things in common with Turkey. Turkey is a strategic gate for us. Turkey is our main corridors to connect Kurdistan with the international market for the flow of oil energy that we have in Kurdistan. But also Iraqi Kurdistan region has played a very constructive role for the internal peace process in Turkey by supporting and helping and facilitating both the Kurds and the Turkish government for the peace process in Turkey. For the issue of the referendum and the things, we have not heard any rejection, any public rejection from Turkey. And they know that Iraqi Kurdistan region is part of the stability in the area. There is a change in the perception and the look at Iraqi Kurdistan region from Ankara. We have to look at the realities. In 2008, February 2008, they have mobilized 100,000 troops for the border with Kurdistan region to come and occupy Kurdistan region. From that moment, now they are putting the Iraqi Kurdistan flag at the presidential Chankaya building palace in Ankara. It's a big of change of in the perception and the look at the relationship with Kurdistan region. But again, Iraqi Kurdistan region proved in the last 25 years that it's not a threat neither to Turkey, nor to Iran, nor to Iraq, nor to Syria. It's a stable area. It's a part of stability. And Turkey has a lot of economic interest in Iraqi Kurdistan region. For example, we have a contract with, we managed to have an agreement with Turkey by 2019. We are going to export 10 billion cubic meters of natural gas from Iraqi Kurdistan region that's going to provide Turkey with at least 50% of their needs for the gas. So this is an important source for the relationship between Kurdistan and Turkey. Out of 3,300 foreign companies who have been working in Kurdistan region, 1,325 of them were Turkish companies. So the amount of the investment and the trade between Turkey and Kurdistan region, it has been $12 billion by the end of 2013. 9 billion of it was with Iraqi Kurdistan region alone. So that's why it's a win-win situation for Turkey and for Kurdistan region. For the third question, right now out of that 1.8 million refugees and IDPs, 1.4 million of them are Arabs from Mosul, from Ramadi, from Tikrit, from Baghdad. I have a brother, he's living in a neighborhood in Erbil. He has two neighbors. One is an Arab family, Shiite from Baghdad. The other one is the Sunni Arab family from Baghdad. They both fled Baghdad because of the threats from the opposite partners. But now they are living side by side in the neighborhood. We have been providing them with schools. They are at the universities. They are part of the society right now. But definitely out of 1.4 million people that coming to Kurdistan, the security of Kurdistan for us is number one. We have, we can't sacrifice the security of Kurdistan region for nothing else. So yes, we have a lot of Arabs in Kurdistan region. They are living there. They are part of the society. Their kids are learning Kurdish, which is a very important thing for the future relationship between Kurdistan and the Sunni areas. But to say that it's very difficult for them to live in Kurdistan, I have to say that really that reports are not true, because we are still expecting more Arabs to come to Kurdistan, and many of them are from the other areas. For example, in Ramadi, 43,000 IDPs from Ramadi. When the Iraqi government started Ramadi operation, many civilians came out from Ramadi. They went to Baghdad. Baghdad didn't accept them. They said that you should have guarantees in Baghdad. So all of them, they came to Kurdistan, and we haven't asked for the guarantors for them to be in Kurdistan because it's a humanitarian. Baghdad refused to accept these people. Why? Because the popular mobilization in unit in Baghdad, they said this is going to change the demography of the Sunnis and the Shiites in Baghdad. We don't have that problems with the demography change of the Sunnis and the Shiites, because once our Prime Minister was asked, are the Kurds Sunnis and the Shiites, or the Shiites, we said we are Sunnis. For us, freedom of religions and the belief is part of the cultural issues of multiculturalism that we have in Kurdistan.
Thank you, Kakim. And I think, as Mr. Hemin said, and we were having a conversation yesterday, actually, with Mr. Abdussalam al-Madani. It's Abdussalam al-Madani.
I also don't know.
Yes, and also goes by the name Salam Muhammad Islam. So it's just in case some people were confused in terms of what you see out in the press at all. First and foremost, thank you again, Mr. Hemin Harami, for that analysis and also for the answers. And as I was saying with Mr. Salam yesterday, we were talking, and I said, as Kurds, and I referred to people in Kurdistan, and he corrected me and said, actually, I've started to say Kurdistanis, and it took me back a second. I said, well, how am I supposed to get used to that, first and foremost? And then, what do you mean? And he said, right now, not even to mention historically, but right now, there's almost 25% other. 28%.
Yes. The latest figure is 28% of the Iraqi Kurdistan society.
IDPs and refugees and other minorities and Arabs from the rest of Iraq, especially from the areas that are now under Sunni control. And so as Kurdistan is reinventing itself, in reality it's also a very multicultural society, and it's no longer just about Kurds in that area, but rather the broader society that is presenting itself in the Middle East. So,
can I add one thing for that, because it was a very important question?
please.
To answer the question for this former disputed territories, We in the leadership in the Kurdistan region, we have also a plan that when they decide in the referendum to be part of Kurdistan, Iraqi Kurdistan region is going to, in its new constitution, to have a special status for those areas that will be based on the power sharing, equal opportunities. And for us, we don't care if the future governor of Kirkuk will be an Arab or a Turkmen, because that special status and the power sharing is important, and so this will be part of the constitution.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Excuse me, does this include Kirkuk?
Definitely, yes, I believe so. So I think also hearing from another part of society in Kurdistan, you know, it's also an honor and pleasure to turn over to Mr. Abdusalam al-Madani or Mr. Salam Muhammad Islam, and who is the current executive director of the Rwanga Foundation, one of the largest in Kurdistan, with, I believe, almost a million beneficiaries, but also has quite an impressive background of working in Kurdistan. Prior to that, was working as advisor for Deputy Prime Minister. He had also been advisor to the Prime Minister. He had worked with the National Democratic Institute, NDI, for about a decade, worked internationally as a part of that. There's just so many things I could talk about. Forming the National Youth Union in Kurdistan back in the 90s, as well as writing 5 books in his spare time. So perhaps you could start by telling us a bit about Rwanga and the role of civil society in Kurdistan and how we could strengthen that. And then we'll have a bit of a conversation between all of us and open it up for questions.
It's still morning, right? So good morning. Talking about politics is boring, but somehow Kakemen is managing to make it very interesting. So I hope that I will be interesting in my topic like him. Thank you very much, all. I believe, and inspired by the quotation of Einstein, who was saying, you cannot solve the problem with the same mentality that created it. So despite of all the challenges that we face in Kurdistan and in the region, and somehow all the world is getting more crazy, in fact, I will talk from another perspective and talk about the people and the civil society and how we deal and manage and function and organize ourselves in order to be better. One of the discussions I do with myself, with the staff, and with the speeches, lecture that we do, is this equation between being efficient and effective. And because the title is very interesting, Kurdistan reinventing itself yet again. So since 1990, correct, we started leading ourselves somehow, and now we are talking about the reinventing. I love the title, because I think when a person, when a society reflect the situation on himself, themselves, and see their weaknesses, it's a strength. Hiding it, not facing it, it's a weakness, I believe. So in the best scenarios, and I was discussing this when I was a civic activist, now also, and with this bridge being a public official, in the best scenario,